Welcome to another episode of Don't Call It Small. I'm your host, Natasha Foreman. If you don't know me and you have no clue what this podcast is all about, let me share a bit. I'm the CEO of ForemanAssociates, LLC, where we provide consulting, business support, and professional development services. And Don't Call It Small is where we talk all things business, share tips and news that you can use, and highlight the people and ideas behind the products and services that we buy. To learn more about our team, please visit ForemanLLC.com. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? I hope you're safe, healthy, strong, vibrant, and you're maintaining your sense of humor through all of this. Isn't this exciting? Well, not what we're going through as far as the crisis, but we have an episode today, followed by an episode tomorrow. What? I love it. Tomorrow's episode, I'm interviewing author D.L. White. So please tune in and listen to her story and her responses when I ask her how she first fell in love with writing and telling stories, her experience as a published author, how she balances her writing world with the rest of her life, and so much more. I've got plenty of questions, and hopefully some of them are the same questions that you would ask. It's going to be a great conversation to sit in on, because if you're already a published author, then you may relate to her. If you're an aspiring author, then it's a great way to gain insights from other perspectives so you can ebb and flow through the byways and highways of the writing world. So be sure to tune in tomorrow so you can hear my interview with author D.L. White. So, I have a quote that I'd love to share with all of you. It is from the late, great Jack Welch that ties in nicely to today's theme. Hopefully it doesn't offend anyone, but Jack Welch said, "The internet is the Viagra of big business." That's what he's quoted as saying. It's a good analogy. It's a great analogy if you think about it. And if you think about what all of that means and the layers of that, it's very deep. Some people will go sexual with that because you think of Viagra, but I want you to really think about what Viagra does, the consequences, the highs and the lows, right? The short-term and long-term effects, and then think about the internet and how the internet impacts big business, the highs and the lows, and the consequences, and all of the other things, right? So there's a lot that goes into it. Now, hopefully I took your mind off of anything else. I just wanted you to get focused on that. It was a great analogy. Alrighty then. Let's get down to business, because I'm not here promoting Viagra. There's so much going on in the world right now. And, most of us are social distancing. A lot of us are isolated. Some of us are in quarantine. Some of us are confusing the social distancing as quarantine. It's not the same, but I'm not here to, talk about semantics. What I really want to look at is some things business related. And I know that some of you are wondering why I haven't dedicated an episode to this crisis dealing with COVID yet. And although I touched on it briefly in the previous episode, I will schedule time to record an episode that dissects things from a business perspective and just get to a lot of the layers of, we're looking at operations and management, so on and so forth. We'll break down some of the leadership components as well. So stay tuned for details on that. I apologize if I'll be pausing. My throat is just kind of bothering me. I was just outside earlier walking on a trail, and this pollen is no joke in Georgia. Oh my goodness. Growing up in California, I never had a concept of pollen. Like, seemed like some kind of mystical, magical something. And then I moved to Georgia and I said, oh crap, this is pollen. So I do have my water. So from time to time, you will hear me sip on my water. My apologies. And I'm also recording in a different location. I don't have my same location to record in. So we're just, dealing with it. We're overcoming obstacles. We're just getting in where we fit in and understanding that change happens and just get on the horse and ride. So this is what we're going to do. Now, I can share some business news as it relates to COVID-19's impact on business and the economy. So I wanted to first look at the stock market, since of course it's a major motivator and indicator for why this crisis has been so poorly managed in the United States. When we look at the New York Stock Exchange, even though it's closed the trading floor, many of the stocks are acting much like us. They're socially distancing themselves from green. Green is always great. They are choosing instead, those stocks are hanging, a lot of them are hanging tough with red. They're just not at all feeling like moving anywhere towards green. When we look at S&P, it took about 22 days for S&P to lose 30% of its value. That's crazy. It's the fastest 30% pullback ever. There's the second and third fastest times for S&P were in the 1930s. I want that to really sit in your mind, because do you recall the 1930s? What period of time that was? And do you? Okay. Do you recall learning about the Great Depression? Oh, okay. Some of you may be saying that no, depending on how old you are. Some of us, of course, weren't around, and I'm not sure the ages of all of my listeners. I know that some of you were alive during the 1930s, but some of us weren't. And so all we can do is read and watch documentaries. And I love reading and watching documentaries. And if you recall, I mentioned that I had written a blog post the other week saying that we are in a Grapes of Wrath era. If you've never read Grapes of Wrath, I strongly recommend that you do. You have nothing else to do right now if you're just sitting at home. So grab, go get it. And if you're, want to be lazy, or if you just prefer audiobooks, I'm not calling you lazy if you listen to audiobooks. So I listen to audiobooks too. Something soothing about someone reading to me. I don't know. But if you'd like to listen to an audiobook, you can listen to it online as well. If you don't want to pay for it, you're frugalicious or cheap or whatever, you can go on YouTube. And matter of fact, if you go visit my blog post at natashaforeman.com, I even shared the links to all of the sections of the book. So there you go. Got you. And that should help you really get a feel for the climate of why I'm saying what we're in now. And this was written not even in context of COVID. I wrote that blog post just in context of where we are as a society here in the United States over the past, 4 or 5 plus years. It had nothing to do with COVID. It is just, this has everything to do with the culture of the United States over the past several years. So go check out that post at natashaforeman.com. Now, back to stock market. When we look at the 1930s, that was the second, third fastest pullbacks for S&P. And what we're looking at now is that some investors actually fear a return of the Great Depression. They fear it terribly. And if you remember the 1929, or remember reading about the 1929 stock market crash, you had a lot of business people, a lot of folks on Wall Street that, there's a lot of deaths surrounding that, not just from natural deaths or anything of that sort, but you have people that just couldn't handle losing everything, and they just took their own lives. And so you have investors that fear all of these elements taking place. They fear losing it. They don't want to be like those people that lost everything. So they're selling assets and hoarding cash. And by doing so, it causes financial markets to seize. And when they seize, they stop working. And when they stop working, what's so crazy is that you actually create the very thing that you're trying to avoid. But it's interesting. We tell consumers to not operate out of fear, but investors do. Isn't that funny? So there's something that so that's that right now. That's just the little highlight I want to share, because I know not everyone is really that keen to the stock market and all of the things going on with financial service markets, blah, blah, blah. But I just want to give you that little tidbit in case you're thinking that somehow they're sitting back just like, fat cats, thinking this is all just a hoax. No, they're scared out of their minds about what this could potentially mean for them. Not really you, but for them. So it's caused a lot to take place on that end. And then when we look at, on the business side, we look at businesses and we see a lot of small businesses that are suffering, that will be suffering, that are literally being clobbered by this crisis. We also have some large companies as well, right? They're trying to get bailed out. Some are trying to get bailed out again. I don't know what to say. It's like coming to court for the same crime and telling the judge, I know, just give me a second chance. So, but when we look at bigger retailers, right, the opposite is happening with the bigger retailers. And you probably shouldn't be surprised, since so many of you have been hoarding toilet paper. Bigger retailers are finding the need to supply the demand for consumer goods and supplies. And without going through all the numbers, Instacart, Walmart, Amazon, CVS, Dollar General, Papa John's, Domino's, and Kroger, they've all announced that they're about to do major hiring because they can't keep up with the demand. And you know what? I just thought about it, because there's always some smart aleck who is like, oh, yeah, they're hiring, huh? So, it's about over 600,000 workers. They need 600,000 workers. So I'm going to break that down for you. Instacart says they need 300,000 shoppers over the next 3 months. Last Sunday, their downloads of their app were up 218% over February. Just within, 1 month. Walmart, they said they need their 150,000 workers are going to undergo a 24-hour hiring process. Amazon, 100,000 delivery and logistics workers. I don't know how they're going to coordinate all that, with the, I don't know how any of them are going to coordinate these hirings when you're supposed to have some kind of social distancing, but I don't know. CVS and Dollar General both said they need about 50,000 workers each. Papa John's and Domino's need 30,000 workers combined. Kroger needs about 10,000 workers across their stores, distribution centers, and factories. So a lot of other sectors have been pancaked. But we got some large retailers that are benefiting greatly from this crisis. And so check out their sites to see what they're doing and who they're hiring. Now, there's one company that I didn't mention, and that's Target Corporation. I looked briefly. I didn't go extensively. But I don't know their plans and what their plans are as far as hiring. I'm pretty sure that all the power trust moves that they've been making over the past year plus, they wouldn't risk sitting on the back burner and allow their rivals to gain greater market share. I seriously doubt it. We're going to be talking about Target today. And the thing is that, I map out the episodes months in advance. So all of these things are just lining up, just as they line up. So let's go ahead and start talking about Target. And let me be clear. I personally call Target Target. So if you hear me say Target a couple of times, you know, I'm not talking about a cousin. Um, it just has a ringier sound. Is ringier a word? I don't think it is. But I just said it, so I've made it one. But it sounds ringier than saying Target. This Target just sounds like whatever, but Target. Target sounds as expensive as the price tags in their store. Because you can spend a pretty penny in Target. Now, and that's the reason why you have certain people that are just 100% Walmart shoppers. They don't mess around with Target. They say Target is just out of their budget. That was kind of corny. No, it was really corny, but I went ahead and played with it. So I will say that Target did take some heat about a couple of days ago. They were selling face masks and knowing there was a shortage in Seattle, so they apologized for that. When we look at, they also said they're going to pay bonuses, and they increased their pay by $2 an hour. So that should be a good little perk for their workers. And I did read briefly. I haven't fully gone into it, but there's an article from Business Insider that Amazon is looking to bring Target and Walmart into an open source technology group. So Amazon formed an open source organization called Dent last year, and they want to bring these two major retailers, the two competitors, in the fold. But at this point, neither of them plan on participating. Dent has access to some of the technologies that enable Amazon to operate its Go stores, which feature autonomous checkout, and it already works with tech solutions firm Marble Technology Group and a networking software provider, Cumulus Networks. And the nature of Dent means that firms that download Amazon software can use it as they like without collaborating directly with Amazon. It's open source. And there's, of course, I'll talk about that in another episode, because this isn't an Amazon episode. This is a Target episode, but it's really interesting. It really is, because basically if Amazon can get its software into the store, like into a Target and Walmart, its computer vision for their AI could improve just exponentially, possibly enabling it to scale its technology beyond the store they recently opened, which is a little over 10,000 square feet. But Amazon's having a hard time recruiting retailers to work with them. The people they look at Amazon, keeps forgetting, folks. You're looking at you like you're their competition. They're like, wait a minute now. They're not used to getting in bed with their competition. So we'll see how that goes. But let's get back to Target. If you didn't know, now you'll know that they were formerly. It's funny how the name. I actually like the kind of like their first name. They're formally from 1902 to 1903. They were the Goodfellow Dry Goods. That was what they were. The Goodfellow Dry Goods. Where are you going? I'm going to go over to Goodfellows. And then they became Dayton's Dry Goods Company. for about 7 years, and then it became Dayton Company for about, from, let's see, about 50 odd years. Then for about 7 years or so, they were Dayton Corporation, and then the Dayton Hudson Corporation, right? Up until 2000. That's, now they're the Target Corporation. Target. And, I mean, it's 117 years ago they were formed as a corporation. They were a store as of 58 years ago, 1962. And the founder of the corporation was George Dayton, and the founder of the Target stores were John Geese, or Geis. And they have about 1,868 stores throughout the U.S. And right now, when you look at their fiscal year 2019, they were a little over $75 billion in revenue. That same fiscal year, their operating income though had dropped about about a little over 4.1 or 11 or something like that, $1 billion. And but their net income was almost $3 billion. Total assets a little over $41 billion. And their equity had dropped to almost $12 billion. And they have, or had, approximately 360,000 employees. Some of us can't handle 3. Heck, some of us can't handle 1. 360,000 employees. So they have various subsidiaries that some of you probably don't know. They have Target Brands Incorporated. They have Target Capital Corporation, Target Enterprise, Target General Merchandise Inc., and Shipt. And I got ahead of myself because I know you're like, what? Shipt? Yeah, Shipt. We're going to talk about that in case you did not know about Target buying up Shipt, which got me really excited. It's interesting because we forget that big businesses were small businesses. I just told you that, you just had old Goodfellow Dry Goods, right? Small little company. And we then see these ginormous corporations. And that's all we see. And somehow we think that it was like a seed was planted and it's like, boom, like some kind of Johnny Appleseed sort of effect. I don't know. We just think that there's overnight they became these giants, but they didn't. It's taken them years to do that. And Target's, had its ups and downs, right? It has gone through a lot. I told you that they renamed the parent company Target Corporation in 2000, and then they divested itself of its last department store chains in 2004. And then, of course, most of us remember when they suffered the massive and highly publicized security breach, right, with their customer credit card data. And then it's like, then they got backslapped when they try to do Target Canada a few years ago. That it didn't last long, right? Not at all. But then they just came back. Like Target is like, we're not going down. We're just not without a major fight. They had a revitalization. They expanded in urban markets within the United States, and boom, it's like Target's like, how do you like us now? So they have about 1,844 stores, as I mentioned earlier, throughout the U.S. They're ranked number 39 as of 2018. for Forbes 500 list of the largest U.S. corporations by revenue. And they have a different view of how they approach retailing than how most of us probably would even imagine. And it's really interesting because I think sometimes when we see the different changes, we feel inconvenience, but you don't realize the method to what you see as madness. To them, it's just strategy. So they have various retail formats. They have their discount store Target, the hypermarket Super Target, right? Have you seen one of those? Oh my goodness, yeah. And then they have a small format that they were previously named City Target and Target Express before they just finally consolidated under the Target brand. And if you really pay attention to who Target targets, who their target market is they are focused on younger, image-conscious shoppers, where Walmart relies on always low prices, right? So there's just two different, you can tell when you walk into a Target, it has a different feel, and you can tell that they're looking at, they're drawing the attention of younger people. Look at the clothes they have on the shelves. Look at what they have on those racks. They are targeting younger people with families, younger people without families. It's younger and image conscious. So that means if you're not as concerned about price as you are about look and quality, or look, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the best quality, but you are very conscious of how you look. And that's the reason why if you look at the designers that they've partnered with some high-end designers who have brought in their lines, and now they have more affordable lines that the average person could not purchase. Now they can on something that's scaled at a more budget conscious consumer. So it is really interesting to look at, and we're going to talk about some of the moves, so to speak, of Target, because I don't think that many people, I know I hadn't really been paying much attention to certain things until I started assigning deliverables to my college students. And in those conversations, so much comes out, and it's just like, it has me intrigued. So I love to be able to then say, well, let's see what's all going on, because we are so consumed by social media and everything else, and some of you are obsessed with reality TV shows in their non-reality. And now that, we've got all this stuff that's flooding in, and we really don't see what's going on or what's not going on. Hence why when we finally see something, to us it's like, oh my gosh, look what just happened. They're like, no, it didn't just happen. It happened 5 years ago. You're just now catching up. So So let's look at some of the things that has been taking place. In 2017, Target announced their new online order service that they call Drive Up. That allows you to order your merchandise online for pickup outside the store, and you get to hit the I'm on my way button when you're en route to the store. You pull into your parking spot, Target team member comes out, greets you with your order. And if those of you remember, that's the Walmart has the same thing, not in all their locations, right? But Walmart has the same service. If you see, it's interesting, like competitors, I don't know why, I've said this on previous episodes, but don't ever think that that competitors are not always looking to see what the other person's doing. Don't think that they don't send their employees into your stores to sample your goods and check out your stuff and try out your services. it's all research. They have to, right? So they all check on each other. And if you're not checking on your competitors, I don't know what to say. But they're let's just get to the biggie. Well, there's quite a few biggies. But let's get to this biggie. Also in 2017, Target announced that they're going to purchase Shipt. And I love Shipt. Internet-based grocery delivery service. And the sales price for that purchase is about $550 million. That would then give them the ability to do same-day delivery to compete with Amazon. And that just was like, whoa, it's like those fingers, flickering together, like your fingertips, because they have to understand. That's what I just said. Amazon's wondering why Walmart and Target doesn't want to get, jump in the passenger seat with them, because they're like, they feel like you're our biggest competition, number one, and number two, what's in it for us and what's in it for you, and we don't trust you, and no, it's going to give you a greater competitive advantage, even if it does benefit us. They're like, no way. So by having Shipt, of course, that then answers that competitive edge that Amazon had on Target. We also looked at some other changes that Amazon was doing in 2018. They shifted their sales model. So, when we're looking at DVDs and Blu-ray discs and compact discs, and what they did was only provide them on a contingency basis. And they said that, their physical media sales were dropping, because people were streaming and doing digital downloads. So it made sense. We're just gonna, do a pivot and only do this at a certain locations and scale it down, and then eventually, have it where it's probably just only online. Now, I mentioned about the issue in 2019 with the exposure for the credit card readers. That right there had everyone in a frenzy. But it should have also been a great learning lesson for businesses and consumers, and just understanding that everyone is hackable, and everyone has vulnerabilities and weaknesses, right? And so just understanding that. That's the reason why if you're consistently doing a SWOT analysis on your company, on yourself, you're then always making sure that you're looking at things and you're always considering the what ifs. And Target saw clearly, oops, we have a major weakness here. And I'm sure they jumped full steam ahead of getting the right team members and the support needed and the resources allocated to not just patch up those areas, but reinforce and rebuild other elements and create the type of infrastructure. Understanding you're still going to be attacked. It's not gonna make hackers say, "Oh gosh, darn it. Well, Target figured out, so we'll just leave them alone." No, they're just going to see, if that series of walls can be penetrated. So, it's just a waiting game to see who's going to have the greater move. Now, I don't know if some of you know, but I enjoyed doing this the other day. Last year in September, they announced their new rewards program called Target Circle. And in conjunction, they had, of course, they changed the Target Red Card to, it was still the same thing. Anyway, they did all these changes, but that doesn't matter. The Target Circle is really cool because it allows you to earn about 1% back in rewards to use on for future purchases. And but you can't, of course, when you use your Target Red Card, they exclude that. They don't want you getting too much into getting your money back from them. But but Target Red Card holders can, um, and I think the only really difference between, oh, that's what it was. I remember now. Target Red Card, all they did was change it from red in caps, card lowercase, to red with a capital R and card with a capital C. Like, okay. So I do remember that. But if you're a Target Red Card holder, you can still save your instant 5% on the total. But now you can earn votes from a purchase with Target Circle to use on deciding where Target gives its 5% back in the community. So you get to vote on where they reinvest the 5%. So they won't let you get, a 6% back. They won't let you get to the extra 6%, the extra 1%. Now, the Target Circle Rewards Program, I'm going to just be very clear with you. There's not a physical card. You can use it by presenting your Target wallet in the Target app or by entering a mobile phone number at checkout. And I got to do it, and it was really cool. So you just have to be mindful of that. And so that's a feature. Now, there's some other things that I don't know if some of you know, but this is, like I said, these are great movements that Target's doing, and it is all examples of what we should be doing. When we're talking about, of course, we can't do it to the same scale, but I'm talking about as far as relationships and turning those relationships into opportunities. So last year, in August, Target and Walt Disney Corporation announced a partnership to have a Disney store in several of the Target locations. And that then gives Disney, of course, this shop-in-shop layout with about 750 square feet. And so imagine that now. So Disney store now has access in Target. Of course, that gives Target even more drawing power. That's a win-win for both of them, right? Gives Target some more variety in their stores. Gives you more draw-in to come in because you're like, oh, who doesn't want to buy Disney items? And you can do it. And then at the same time, while we have you in here, we have a captured audience. And what I mean by that is that you're coming in for this, or you're coming in for something else, and then guess what you see, right? So if you're like me, even if I come in a store with a list, for some reason my eyes gravitate to something not on the list, and I find myself sometimes purchasing it. So that is the draw-in, is that if we can now get you into the store, and what if you're not really a consistent Target shopper, but you want to be able to purchase from the Disney store? I get you into that store, and while you're now maneuvering your way through, guess what you're seeing? You're seeing all the other great stuff that we have in here that you're just going to have to put in your basket. So it's a great collaboration there. Now, something else that just blew my mind, but I knew it. If you guys recall, I had said it, and I said it. Toys R Us. Remember Toys R Us, had everybody just panic-stricken. Folks were buying up all the stuff at Toys R Us and everything. And I had said, while all this was going on, when I went into a Toys R Us, and I'm like, nothing was more than 50% off. And I said, well, if you're going out of business, this just doesn't make any sense, because like what are you going to do? How are you going to liquidate the rest of your inventory? Like, you're not going to just bonfire it. So what's going on? And when I was going through a lot of the stores, I noticed how many of them, you still had a lot of their stuff. And at that moment, I knew. I said, okay, Toys R Us isn't going out of business. Toys R Us is going to restructure their business. And people told me, I didn't know what I was talking about. So then, of course, what happened last year, beginning of last year, is Toys R Us restructured themselves. Right? They restructured themselves to True Kids, and they were going to do a smaller imprint, smaller footprint. So instead of having their huge, ginormous 30,000 plus square foot stores, they would do something closer to 10,000 square feet. Well, what does this have to do with Target, you want to know? Well, True Kids and Target last year announced their partnership to relaunch the website of Toys R Us, of the toysrus.com. Oh, yes. Yeah. So all that stuff y'all jumped to buy, guess what? It's online. It's available. So when you go to toysrus.com to purchase a product, you'll be redirected to target.com. You'll be redirected to target.com to complete your order. The website allows Toys R Us to have an online presence post-bankruptcy, and at the same time, it adds, boom, what? A boost to Target sales and toys. It's a win-win. Are you guys seeing these relationships and the dynamics in which you can find ways to, because think about it, Target's not a toy retailer, but Target, they do have a lot of toys, but now this allows them to have a greater sales and revenue growth in the toys side. And something that I don't think a lot of people realize is both Target and Walmart and some of the other retailers as well, you actually save more money if you buy online, even if you buy for pickup, than if you go into their stores. And so what both of those retailers are doing is they're scaling down the inventory in the stores, but they're ramping up your options and availability online. But people are going in there like, well, we can't find it. Well, because it's online only. They can have an endless supply online, so to speak, right? Because they don't have the square footage in store to house all of those products. And that's the reason why when you look at you can buy and then pick up outside, certain things, even if you have it where it's, you do it for pickup at store or ship to store, because they can reroute them from their other warehouses. So it's just like, I strongly recommend going online. If you need to pick up, great. Put in the order for pickup. I did that a few weeks ago. They sent me my email saying your order's ready for pickup. Boom. I went down the street to the Target, went in there, got my stuff, and was out. So just be mindful of that. When you're thinking about your business and how you can have strategic partnerships or alliances with other businesses, even if they're in the same or a similar, area as you. Now, there are some great things that Target as well as their competitors are doing. They're going to be taking part in using their stores for testing of COVID-19. March 13th, the CEO of Target, Brian Cornell, he agreed to use some of their stores for that purpose. So that is a great thing. There's some other things I wanted to be able to, I think I covered everything. Let me see. I'm going down my little list. Yeah. We brought shipped, realignment of inventory. So I really quickly want to talk about that realignment of inventory. Right now, if you are not still doing your day-to-day, going into your office or whatever the case may be, you're at home and you're staring at the paint on your walls and realizing that there's spaghetti sauce from you don't know when somehow splattered that you never got. But I want you to really look at the products and services that you offer. And if you happen to know that something's not selling or it's not selling at the rate that you had hoped, that maybe it needs to be realigned. Maybe something needs to be spruced or repurposed. Maybe something just needs to just go away, right? You keep trying to sell, this particular item that no one's buying. It doesn't matter how much you love it. Doesn't matter how great you think it is. If no one's buying it, that means no one wants it, or they don't find value in it, or maybe they don't know about. Maybe no, that's another thing. I've heard someone say, "Oh, someone's not buying my whatever because if they're not buying." Well, how do they know about it? So if you're not marketing it, how are you marketing it? How are you getting that message out there? Now, if people know about it, if you have flooded everyone's minds with your product and they just still don't want to buy it, if they come in your store and buy everything else but that, you really need to sit back and ask why they're not buying it. So, do some polls and ask. You can do online polls and have the thing with, I don't care if it's with a video, I don't care how you manufacture this image of so people get to test it out or see it, but get the feedback. And if people tell you we don't like it because it's ugly or it looks cheap or it's stupid or whatever they say, then you need to then understand you have to trust your customer and the fact that they're not going to buy it because they think it's ugly, cheap, or useless. If by chance they say, "Well, we didn't know you even had it," then silly you. That's because you haven't done a good job of marketing and letting them know. You got to tell the story. So that is something that when we look at always assessing what's going on, right? Target looked and said, "Hey, we've got these shelves. We've got all this square footage in our store that is being wasted because people aren't buying the DVDs and Blu-rays and the CDs like that. So we need to scale these back, do the bulk through online, and at some point understand that people are going to stop buying them, just like people stopped buying VHS, like people stopped buying those really big, super big laser discs, if any of you remember the laser discs. People stopped buying 8-tracks, right? People stopped buying cassettes. I still hold on to my cassettes, and I still hold on to my VHS tapes, even though I don't even remember where my VHS player is. It doesn't matter. The thing is that I have them. But just understand that there's all, with the change, you have to change with the change. It's going to come. It's inevitable. So you need to sit back and look at the ways in which you can realign your inventory, realign your products, realign your services. Understand that certain locations, like I know different people that plan on expanding their businesses to have them in different locations. You really need to understand. Don't just willy-nilly just pick a place because you just happen to like the place. You need to understand that that area may be totally different than the area where you're currently located. And so you have to sit back and spend time in that area, get to know the how things ebb and flow, the culture, the climate, the energy of that area, because you could be thriving in one part of your state or city and then just tank, just flop in another part. Same brand, same product, same service, same quality, same everything. Is just you're dealing with a different group of people who just don't, see the same value or want the same experience or, whatever. And so you have to take all those things in consideration, right? So that is a definite homework assignment for any of you that have dreams of expansion. Is don't just go because you're like, oh, these other locations, these other businesses are thriving there. That doesn't necessarily mean that your business is going to thrive there. Something else is this, and this is one of my pet peeves, and I think right now this is a great experience with going on with COVID-19 is that so many people, their butts are planted at home. And this just reinforces what I've been saying, is that not all these companies need to have bodies in locations. You could have people working virtually, aka remotely. They could be working. I mean, they don't have to necessarily be home. Like, as long as they have a laptop in a secure location, they could be working in a coffee shop. They could be working at the park. They could be working at the beach. And I will say, I've worked at the beach plenty of times, especially, vacationing and stuff. And it's quite relaxing. It's beautiful office space. Now, but seriously, could you have to reimagine and say, where are we going futuristically, not just in the now, but what's coming in the future? And what's coming in the future is that it is not necessarily feasible and financially smart to rent, purchase, lease, whatever, square footage that you cannot maintain in times of crisis. So you need to sit back and really rethink some things and understand that how can I adjust and how can I create, like we talked about in the last episode about your crisis management. What can you do to plan for the before, the during, and the after? And looking at your structure of your organization, right? I remember when I had ForemanAssociates and I had in an office, and then I was like, I'm not there. So everything was just made remote, and it's just been fine. Now, I am not the strongest manager of a remote situation because I self-isolate and then don't even think that, oh, crap, like I need to reach out to people. And I remember I had one of my team members in New York, and I would forget about her. I'm like, oh my goodness. That's the reason why I said, I don't know how having, thousands of workers, not saying that one person would be responsible for thousands of workers, but I'm just saying that you have to be very methodical and structured and disciplined when managing remote workers. I did laugh, and not like in a mean, hot way, but like a haha, oh my gosh, the irony. If you recall, I mentioned, I think last year about how AT&T Corporation, they had reached out to their virtual remote workers and who had been working remotely for 10 to 15 plus years and said, basically this is the rough of it, that, you guys have been isolating yourselves on islands for too long. We need you to rejoin and be part of this team. You can't keep isolating yourself. So we're going to have you come back and work on the campus, on the AT&T campus. You just guys have to stop isolating yourselves. And these workers that have been working from home for 10, 15 years are like, what in the world? And talk about culture shock. Talking about, like, you now have to come into in this environment. But here's the crazy thing. Number one, your workers can't isolate themselves. You isolated them. And number two, you've now spent I don't know how much money bringing them into either A, because you needed to fill in unused office space that you just couldn't justify holding on to, but you also couldn't somehow part with the inventory. Or B, you went and purchased more inventory, right? You got more real estate in order to make this happen. And now, how many of your workers are at home? And that real estate, that square footage is just sitting there. Bills are still going to be due, but was it really necessary? So I don't know. It's all really interesting to me. But I just wanted to really quick talk about some of the store formats of Target before we wrap up. So, of course, most of you know the typical Target store, right? But I don't know if you guys know that there are CVS pharmacies inside of Targets, right? There's Starbucks coffee counters, which, I love. That's one of my ways in order to cheat and get my Starbucks is when I go inside our Target. Matter of fact, there's sometimes when I teach on campus, if I am really like fiending for it, I may go into a Target just to go get some Starbucks. And then I jump in my car and get to work. But it's all these different things. But they also have, of course, their grocery side, right? And I think they call it P-Fresh. right? It's really cool. It's about, 1,500 square feet. There's not in all of their locations, so not all of the stores have it, but the one by me I enjoy. Um, if you notice that some of their garden centers had closed so that they could open up their floor space for the expansion of that P Fresh, but also for their seasonal departments. So they did that. And if you have never been to a Super Target, you don't know what you're missing. Super Target, of course, has their full grocery departments. They have they have more checkout lanes, price scanners, larger aisles. They have expanded pharmacy and photography departments, food courts, a whole bunch of stuff in there. So those are all the different things that you can see in there. When you look at their small format Target, like the city Target, right, the smaller one, they're about 80,000 square feet, and they have some in Atlanta. I believe did I see one in Atlanta? I think I did. I don't know if I saw one in Atlanta. I don't know. But like they have them in Chicago, LA, Boston, I think has the largest one, and then Seattle, some other places they have them. Their Target Express stores are smaller. They're about 14,000 square feet to about 20,000, and it's just you're understanding how they're realigning and saying, okay, cities aren't creating more land. No, land is not growing. So how can we fit in where there's not that much space that can be occupied? And that's the thing that remember, I can't remember which episode it was where I talked about the reimagining of the business structures and the imprints that we have. And that was one of the things that I had said about Toys R Us, that, imagine how they restructured 10 years ago, right? If they had sat back and said, oh, we really should be looking futuristically that we could be selling all this online. We can have smaller imprint stores. We can have partnerships with other retailers that aren't taking a hit like we are. And then we can turn around and actually draw in more money. Because really, let's keep it real. Those of you that have children, you really don't get any thrills about taking your child or children into a Toys R Us store because it drains you, because you end up spending way more time in there than you want to. What you really would love to be able to do is, think about it. Like they see it on TV. That's what gets you. That's what's always gotten us since we started seeing toys and stuff advertised on TV. They get you by pointing it out 20,000 times. Mommy, 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 daddy, 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 grandma, 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 grandpa, 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 uncle, auntie, whatever. I want this toy. And then somehow you get suckered into being dragged to the store. You don't have to do, no. That's something that you don't want to take them in the store. And I know this from experience because I remember spending plenty of hours up in the Toys R Us and the Babies R Us and a whole bunch of other RSs with a small child. They want to see and touch everything. So it's really not the wisest place to take them anyway. So now that they've been able to convert and do smaller imprint stores, do this partnerships with Target, have online, hopefully those of you will spend more time buying online. You can do the pickup at the store if you like. Then you will have actually torturing yourself by taking your child. It's funny because I remember going into Target, like I said, the other day or the other week, and these parents were just so frustrated because the kids didn't want to leave. I'm like, well, dumb, you brought them over there. What do you think is going to happen? You made that choice to bring your child over where the toys are. What do you think's going to happen? It's like, come on. I get excited. Matter of fact, I was over in the educational little part of the thing where they have all the doodads. I'm over there playing with all this stuff for about 20 minutes, and I'm an adult. So just consider those things. Look at all the ways that you can come up with different formats. Some of you that are wanting to have this big vision of a large restaurant, with all that's going on now, hopefully you're thinking of ways to, how can I restructure and reimagine this into maybe a food truck, maybe doing catering, a combination of two, doing some pop-ups. Maybe I can switch this up in a different way where I'm not then going to face the burden of a large net, right? Of a large budget that I cannot withstand for 6+ months. As I mentioned in the last episode, you know, big business, small business, neither formats are sitting back on 12 to 18 months of reserve cash that they can just be able to invest freely. So keep it real with yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Reimagine what you can do with your business, and think in the future, not just now that we're in the middle of a crisis. Plan for the future, and plan for there's a possibility of another crisis, because there's always going to be a crisis. There's always going to be something that's going to disrupt your flow. There's always going to be something that's going to change your now to a then to a here. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's like it's always going to be changing. So come up with all the different ways and think of all the different collaborations and alliances that you can have. I'm just thinking of all the different collaborations that Target, has, the pet food and supply line. They have the Sutton and Dodge, which is their premium meat line. They have an organic grocery products through Simply Balanced. They have Market Pantry, which is their grocery products. They have Archer Farms, which is their upmarket grocery products. They have Room Essentials, right? That's their home goods line. It's on their lower end. Then they have their premium furniture line, which is Threshold. They have their bedding and bath line that they have in partnership with the Iconics brand group, which is called Fieldcrest. They have all these different things because they're thinking in different ways. They're looking through the different lenses of all the different types of consumers that needs need to be met, right? They have private labels that, like the Cat and Jack, which is the children's line of apparel and accessories. They have a baby's line, the Cloud Island. They've got the fitness clothing line, Joy Lab. Like they're saying, we're trying to find all the ways to get you to come into our stores, to keep you into our stores. For the sophisticated woman who wants sophisticated clothing, we have Prologue. The Gen Z and millennials, we have clothing for men and women of those generations. Wild Fables for the women, and Original Use. There's some of these names. Anyway, I'm not going to even go there. But with that, Target is making big moves. I love sharing examples like this because you can see how you can come up with your own strategies and make them work for you, right? Of course, they're scaled at where you are, but you can see how these things are possible, how you can readjust yourself, how you can bounce back, right? So even right now, if you feel that you're in the ditch, you're not alone. You're not the only company that has. You're not the only entrepreneur, that's been blindsided. Everyone has. And so looking at how we can come up with what you can do if you're a product based company, how you're going to handle supply chain, and whether or not you have partnerships for distribution, or if you have your own distribution center. I think Target has over 39, right? And it's like when you're looking at all these things, it's really saying, now what can I do? So sit back. This is your homework assignment. You have a homework assignment. Get your paper and your pencil out, or type on your computer. I don't know. But your homework assignment is to really sit back and look at the different companies that you can have relationships with, alliances with, different individuals, what you can and need to realign, whether it is operational-wise, it's product-wise, it's service-wise, how you can see your company different ways in which you can reimagine the imprint, the footprint that you're having, whether that's through square footage, whether that is, splitting up your workers' times where they can work remotely and on site. Really being truthful with yourself. Get your head out of your tail, and stop feeling the need to be this traditionalist of saying that I need to see butts and seats. No, you don't. Do you really? That's what you need to really. Do you really? Can the job be done effectively and efficiently with a worker remotely, where you can use that square footage for something else, repurpose it, right? Just like Target repurpose theirs. Or is it really vital? Like, let me know. Now, if it's warehouse, I get it. You kind of do need someone working in the warehouse until you decide to get rid of their jobs with robots. Right? And then, so those are things I really would like you guys to do. And then just give me, your feedback. Let me know what it is, what you come up with, and what's going to work best for you. Not in 2021, because you need to look at what's now. Don't start tossing away 2020 just because the time is rough. This is what is defining your character. It is helping you to see who you are as a leader, as a manager. If you really have what it takes, because that's the thing, that's the true test. Can you endure? Can you get your butt kicked? Can you be clobbered and you get back in for the next round? Or are you just going to tell your team to wave the flag? Entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not meant to be easy. It is meant to be a slugfest. It is meant to be round by round of possibly getting your tail, I almost said another word, your tail rope-a-doped, right? So you have to be able to work smart and be able to dig deep and find all the ways in which to align yourself strategically so that you can actually gain great leverage. And I hope that what I've shared today has been beneficial to someone, hopefully. Hopefully. With that, it's that time. You know what that is. That's the music. It's time to wrap up, go our separate ways. I've actually spoke longer than I planned. I will see you guys here tomorrow for episode 36 with author D.L. White. If you have any questions or suggestions about this show, please email them to us at don'tcallitsmallbiz with a Z at the end at gmail.com. That's don'tcallitsmallbiz@gmail.com. When you complete your homework assignment, be sure to email me if you like your homework assignment. I'd love to review it. Make sure you guys check us out on Facebook at ForemanAssociates, all spelled out, one word, and we're on IG and Twitter at ForemanLLC. Our podcast Twitter is It Ain't Small. Be sure to follow us and share us with your friends, colleagues, and family. And of course, I want to hear from you. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn at Natasha L. Foreman. Reach out to me, say hello, share your story. I look forward to meeting you, hearing from you. I want to make sure I give proper credit for this theme song that I love jamming to every week. It's by Shane Ivers, and it's called Higher Up. Thank you again. I'm tongue-tied. Thank you again for tuning in to the Don't Call It Small Business Podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. Don't forget what I tell you on each and every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing, little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. I'll see you guys here tomorrow.